Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. On March 20th, 2022, in Brea, Italy, a local resident was enjoying his usual walk along the mountain paths. Known for its beautiful landscapes and historic castles, this area often attracts both tourists and locals. However, that day, the peaceful setting turned into the site of a horrifying discovery. While walking, the man noticed several black garbage bags discarded by the roadside. Initially, he was frustrated, assuming it was just litter, but as he got closer, his frustration turned to shock. From one of the bags, he saw something disturbing, a human hand with neatly manicured nails. Alarmed, he immediately called the police. When officers arrived, they found 4 bags containing 15 parts of a woman's body. The remains were badly mutilated, and some parts appeared to have been burned, as though someone had tried to destroy evidence. This gruesome find marked the beginning of an investigation that would shock all of Italy, exposing a dark story tied to the world of social media and adult entertainment. The woman behind this tragic story was Carol Maltesi, born on January 15, 1995, in Sestocand, a small Italian town by Lake Maggiore. Her father, Fabio, was Italian, and her mother, Josephine, was Dutch. This cultural blend influenced Carol's personality from an early age. Carol's life wasn't without struggles. When she was just 4, her parents divorced. Fabio returned to the Netherlands and remarried, while Josephine remained in Italy, raising Carol on her own. Despite financial hardships, Josephine worked tirelessly to provide for her daughter, ensuring she had a good education and opportunities to grow. Carol was outgoing, easily making friends and loved by teachers. She was active in sports, particularly horse riding, and also enjoyed dance classes, which helped her build self-confidence. Her multicultural background allowed her to speak Italian, English, and Dutch fluently, broadening her horizons and opening doors for future opportunities. As a teenager, Carol grew into a beautiful young woman, often catching the attention of others with her looks. However, she didn't rely solely on her appearance. She was also focused on developing her intellect and creativity. After finishing school, Carol pursued industrial design, art, and fashion at a technical university, excelling in her studies. She dreamed of becoming a successful designer and starting her own fashion line. But life took an unexpected turn. During her first year at university, Carol found out she was pregnant. The father was a classmate, and both were unprepared for this news. Despite the challenges, Carol chose to keep the baby. In 2016, at 20, she gave birth to a son. This event changed her life, forcing both her and her partner to leave their studies as they couldn't afford to continue. Hoping to build a better future, they moved to Verona, where Carol found a job in a cosmetics store, while her partner worked from home and cared for their son. Although far from her dreams of becoming a designer, Carol did her best to adapt to her new life. She devoted herself to being a mother and worked hard to provide for her family. However, financial struggles continued to plague the young couple, and they began looking for additional sources of income. In 2020, the COVID-19 pandemic hit, and Carol lost her job due to the lockdowns. With no income and a child to care for, she was desperate to find a way to support her family. It was during this time that Carol discovered OnlyFans, a platform where people shared success stories of making money. At first, the idea of creating adult content seemed questionable to Carol. However, financial struggles and her desire to provide for her son pushed her to give it a try. She created an account under the name Charlotte Angie and began by sharing modest photos and videos. Over time, her content became more explicit. To her surprise, she quickly gained subscribers and started earning money. But reality wasn't as promising as she had hoped. Despite the success stories she had heard, Carol's earnings on OnlyFans averaged only $180 a month, which was not enough to cover her expenses. She soon realized that to make more money, she would need to produce more provocative content. In November 2020, Carol met David Fontana, a 42-year-old bank employee. David was married and had a respectable image, but he had a secret passion for erotic photography. He found Carol's profile online while searching for models for his projects and reached out to her. They agreed to meet, and during their first photo session, there was an immediate attraction between them. This quickly grew into a romantic relationship. David was captivated by Carol and began helping her create content for her OnlyFans account, using his photography and video skills. Their relationship intensified, and by 2021, Carol's career on OnlyFans was flourishing. With David's assistance, she produced more explicit content, which brought in a growing number of subscribers. Her income significantly increased, enabling her to support herself and her son. As her popularity grew, Carol also began appearing in adult films, further boosting her income. In March 2021, David divorced his wife to be with Carol, and they moved in together. David continued to assist Carol in producing content, handling the technical aspects of filming and editing, and even receiving a portion of her earnings. Despite her financial success, Carol felt a growing sense of discomfort. She often expressed the emotional and moral burden of her work in the adult industry. On social media, she openly discussed the stigma surrounding adult content creators, aiming to change society's view of the profession. She hoped to normalize it and encourage understanding. By the start of 2022, Carol had begun to consider changing her career path. She longed to move back to Verona to be closer to her son, and hoped to leave the adult industry behind for a more traditional job. Around this time, Carol started a secret relationship with Salvatore Galdo, an adult film actor. Salvatore eventually proposed to her, offering an engagement ring, which left Carol in a tough position. On one hand, she had a stable relationship with David, who had always supported her career. On the other, she had developed new feelings for Salvatore and a desire to change her life. Carol planned to talk to David about ending their relationship, but she couldn't find the right time. Then, on January 11, 2022, Carol's life took a tragic turn. She agreed to film an explicit video for one of her OnlyFans subscribers, with David helping to manage the technical side of things. The video involved BDSM elements, including Carol being tied up with a bag over her head while David simulated hitting her with a hammer. The shoot began around 11 a.m. in the basement of Carol's home, and at first, everything went according to plan. David tied her up, placed a bag over her head, and pretended to hit her. But at some point, things went horribly wrong. David lost control and began striking Carol for real. The blows to her head were fatal. Realizing the gravity of the situation, David removed the bag and saw that Carol was still alive but barely hanging on. Instead of calling for help, he chose to end her suffering by slitting her throat. After the murder, David Fontana didn't immediately leave the scene. He sat next to Carol's body for about 90 minutes, trying to grasp what had just happened. He then returned home but came back to Carol's apartment the next day, realizing he needed to hide the evidence. David began planning how to dispose of the body. Using Carol's bank card, he ordered a freezer, an electric saw, and a machete online, which were delivered to her apartment over the following days. David then dismembered Carol's body into 15 parts. To make identification difficult, he tried to destroy her tattoos using knives and fire. Afterward, he placed the body parts in the freezer. Following the murder, David started leading a double life. He continued to work at the bank and maintain his regular social interactions, but in his free time, he focused on covering up his crime. He gained access to Carol's phone and social media accounts, responding to messages as if he were Carol. For 2 months, David kept up the charade, writing to her friends, family, and fans, coming up with excuses for why she couldn't meet in person or take phone calls. He continued paying rent for Carol's apartment and making purchases using her bank card to make it seem like she was still alive. David even posted old photos from her archive on her social media to avoid raising suspicions. However, despite his efforts, signs of Carol's absence started to surface. When she missed the erotic festival in Milan in January 2022, people in the adult industry were surprised. Carol was known for her professionalism, and her unexplained absence seemed strange. Some of her close friends began to worry as she only responded to text messages and stopped answering calls. Her mother also felt uneasy, as Carol always found time to talk with her, no matter how busy she was. Although many in Carol's circle didn't suspect anything serious, thinking she was either taking a break or traveling, concerns grew. The messages David sent on her behalf were convincing enough to keep most people from digging deeper. In early March 2022, journalist Andrea Tortelli received an anonymous tip from a concerned fan. The fan mentioned that they hadn't seen any new posts from Carol in months, prompting Andrea to start his own investigation. Although he received text responses, all attempts to arrange a meeting or phone call were rejected. Sensing that something was off, Andrea approached the police with his concerns. Initially, the police didn't pay much attention, believing Carol, as an adult, had the right to privacy. But Andrea's persistence and the mounting evidence led them to begin a preliminary investigation. On March 20, 2022, the situation took a grim turn when a dismembered body was found in the mountains of the Brescia province. The discovery shocked the public and reignited the investigation. Police released descriptions of the tattoos found on the body parts, hoping the public could help identify the victim. Carol's fans quickly recognized the tattoos, and social media buzzed with speculation about her fate. This information soon reached the police, giving them a solid lead. Forensic experts examined the remains, confirming they belonged to a young woman who had died about 2 months prior. The traces of burns and attempts to destroy the tattoos suggested that the killer had tried to hide her identity. After identifying the body as Carol Maltesi, the investigation intensified. As the investigation progressed, authorities began carefully examining Carol's circle of communication, her professional contacts, and her recent activities. Special focus was given to those with access to her apartment and social media accounts. David Fontana quickly became a person of interest due to his close relationship with Carol, frequent visits to her apartment, and involvement in creating content for her OnlyFans account. Fontana, along with one of Carol's friends, had even filed a missing person report just days before her body was discovered. The police reviewed surveillance footage from the area where the body was found and spotted a Fiat 500 registered in Carol's name heading toward the crime scene. This became a critical piece of evidence linking David to the location. On March 30, 2022, the police called Fontana in for questioning. Initially, he remained calm and denied any involvement in Carol's disappearance. However, under the pressure of mounting evidence and expert interrogation, Fontana eventually confessed. He admitted to murdering Carol, describing in chilling detail how the events of January 11th had unfolded. According to him, it began as a routine video shoot for OnlyFans, but jealousy and fear of losing Carol, who planned to move closer to her son, caused him to lose control. David's confession left investigators stunned by its cold-blooded nature. He explained how he dismembered her body, destroyed evidence, and impersonated her online for 2 months. His arrest marked the conclusion of an investigation that had captivated Italy. After Fontana's confession, the investigators meticulously reconstructed the crime. They thoroughly examined Carol's apartment, the site of the murder. Despite his attempts to erase all traces, forensic experts discovered bloodstains and other physical evidence that matched Fontana's story. It became clear that he had acted alone. Using Carol's bank card, he had purchased the freezer, electric saw, and other tools immediately after the murder, suggesting a calculated plan to conceal the crime. Forensic experts confirmed that Carol's body had been dismembered with precision, supporting Fontana's account of how he had carried out the procedure over several days. Burn marks on some of the body parts further indicated his attempts to erase her tattoos and hinder identification. David Fontana's trial began in November 2022 and drew significant public and media attention. Prosecutors argued that the murder was premeditated, driven by jealousy and a need to control Carol. Fontana's defense, however, claimed it was an accidental death during a video shoot, followed by panic and a desperate attempt to cover up the crime. They pointed out the absence of prior violent behavior from Fontana and emphasized his cooperation with the investigation following his arrest. Carol's family attended the court hearings, calling for the harshest punishment. Her mother, Josephine, delivered an emotional speech, speaking of the deep pain caused by the loss of her daughter and its effect on Carol's son. On June 12, 2023, the court rendered its verdict. Despite the prosecution's request for a life sentence, the judge sentenced David Fontana to 30 years in prison. This decision sparked a mixed reaction, as many were outraged that the court did not view the brutality of the murder and dismemberment as aggravating factors. Some human rights activists and the public felt that the sentence was too lenient, given the nature of the crime and Fontana's efforts to conceal it. Along with his prison sentence, Fontana was ordered to pay compensation to Carol's family. Her son was awarded €180,000, her parents €100,000, and the father of her child €20,000. However, many believed these amounts were insufficient to make up for the profound emotional loss. The verdict sparked a broader conversation in Italian society about the adequacy of punishments for especially brutal crimes. Some called for reforms to ensure stricter penalties in similar cases. Carol Maltesi's tragic story left a lasting impact on Italy. It highlighted the safety concerns faced by workers in the adult entertainment industry and the stigma they often endure. Carol's friends and colleagues organized events in her memory, emphasizing her kindness, ambitions, and love for her son. They also launched a campaign to raise awareness about the risks faced by those in the online adult entertainment sphere. Her death also raised concerns about safety on social media and the importance of checking in on loved ones when their online behavior changes unexpectedly. Carol's family now focuses on raising her son, hoping to shield him from the traumatic details of her death. They expressed the hope that Carol's tragic story would serve as a warning to others and potentially save someone's life in the future. Thank you for watching today's video. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the Crime Stories channel.